You have found Prep Recruiting Insider here at NOLA Motorsports Park in Avondale. I'm Rick Gailey, your host and coach of PRI, along with our Prep Recruiting Insider, Renee Nato. And we are joined for this particular segment with Rod Walker of the New Orleans Advocate, high school sports writer extraordinaire, and Coach Don Rodrigue, not only former Nichols State coach, but our defensive coordinator, and all around planner and coordinator of all events, Coach Don Rodrigue. And we're going to the non-select semifinals starting with Class 3A. And that is West Feliciana, 13th seed, traveling to the Lutcher Bulldogs, the Saints and the Bulldogs at Lutcher. Rod, what are your thoughts on this game?
Well, Lutcher's defense has carried them a lot this year. They have a young man by the name of Sully Lesh. He had 18 individual tackles last week against Kaplan. He sets the tone for that defense in the front line, which they play a three-man front, but they also bring up another linebacker. They're aggressive. They have Nicky St. Pierre that plays the secondary. He wears 68 for a safety guy because they're so short on their offensive lineman. He has to go in there and play the center sometimes. But he does a heck of a job in the secondary, just taking care of covering people and just knocking down balls. And West Feliciana with Rob Odom, they're going to run that little Oxford offense. They're going to have that double wing. They can play with a tight end most of the time, and they're more of a running team. But they have a bunch of athletes that can play the game of football.
And we saw Lutcher in New Orleans against De La Salle, outstanding football team.
Yeah, they are. You know, he talked about the defense, and that's sort of been their MO all season. They've only given up 22 points in the playoffs this season, and it's a really good team, and they're number one seed for a reason, and they're going to be tough to beat.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, based on what he's saying too, 7 points a game they've allowed in the playoffs, and their only blemish was a 21-20 loss to St. Amant. 6 state titles for the Bulldogs, triple option for West Feliciana, and they beat number 4 seed Patterson 44-19. Tells them that they're very talented.
There's not going to be a whole lot of discussion about the next game because St. James right now has walked through to the finals because the Amite Warriors were disqualified from the playoffs because of a bench-clearing brawl at the end of their game with Bogalusa. So the appeal was heard this morning and was rejected, and now the 19th Circuit Court of Appeals or whatever is going to rule on it, but the LHSA is used to this. They know what they're doing. They're on very sound ground. So we go to Class 2A. In fact, in a later segment, we're going to talk about how to prevent those types of incidences from happening. But in Class 2A, the Mangum Dragons, one of my favorite mascots, going to number 2 seeded Rayville. Rod.
All right, Mangum, they've been here before. Them and West St. John have tussled against each other for the last 3, 4, 5 years, and they've usually been coming out on top. And they are run-orientated offense. Their ball's not going to be in the air too much. Rayville's a little bit opposite. They're going to run the spread. They're going to keep the ball's going to be in the air, with usually a tremendous receiver and a tremendous quarterback to get him the ball.
Northeast Louisiana matchup here, Rod.
Yeah, you know, Rayville, they scored a lot of points in the playoffs in the first 3 rounds, and this is a Mangum team that's got they got this far, and they're just a number 8 seed, so that says a lot about the program and the tradition of that program. And another close game against West St. John last week, beating them by 2 points, and they were able to stay away from the number 1 seed because West St. John beat Manning the week before that.
Mangum 3-3 the last 6 games. They had a good draw in the playoffs. Rayville 9-4 overall. They beat Pickering 32-27 in the quarterfinals. 6 straight wins for Rayville.
And another one of my favorite all-mascot team members, the Welsh Greyhounds, are traveling is kind of the wrong word, just right down the road to the Kinder Yellow Jackets. This is a neighborhood rivalry, Rod. When they play in the regular season, they have a parade together.
Yes, well, one school is south of I-10, the other school is north of I-10, and it's a great rival. Brett Fusilier has been there. This is his 3rd season, and he's been to the Dome twice. He's won it the first year, got beat by Manny the second year, and now he's back in the semifinals in his run-orientated offense. Tough, hard-nosed coach as he is. His players take his identity with that toughness and all. He took an offensive lineman from the year before, put him at fullback, was the MVP of the Dome, his first year there. And then Welch, they're just tough young men.
And once again, it's the Southwest Louisiana matchup, Rod, and it's amazing. They do have a parade with each other before their regular season matchup.
Yeah, that's you look at this Kinder team. I mean, they've scored 40-something points in every playoff game, and that's pretty hard to do. But they may go back a little bit to we talk a lot about the split playoff format and how it sort of waters it down sometimes. But that's still impressive to score that many points in every round of the playoffs.
Absolutely.
And I know this team very well. I did the game November 5th. Kinder won the game 27-14, so I'm familiar with both teams. Last time in the Dome for Welsh, 89-92, they won. Keyshawn Bell, a running back for Welsh, nearly 2,000 yards on the ground. Wooshie Gray is a tackling machine. He's over 100 stops. Kinder runs that double slot with Georgia Tech type offense. Wells Cooley is a 4-year starter and a fullback. That coach was talking about, Taylor Johnson, 1,300 yards, 20 touchdowns. So they move the ball and they run you to death, and they are very powerful up front.
And going to Class 1A, the matchups there are 4th-seeded Oak Grove under the water tower at Kentwood, the Kangaroos, and the number 7 Arcadia at number 3, the University of Haynesville. Out of those two matchups, Rod, give me one team that really interests you.
Kentwood. I mean, they've got athletes. When you watch them play, it's not 10-yard touchdowns. It's 50-plus yard touchdowns. Those guys are running for days, and they can cover you, and they attack you on defense. Jonathan Foster has done a great job taking over for David Career there, and he's kept the tradition going with Kangaroos. So I'm going with the Kangaroos.
And we have the other Rod on the so we have Coach Rod and Rod Walker. Rod, give me a team that interests you.
I'm agreeing with him with Kentwood. I mean, they scored 67 points in the quarterfinals, and that's pretty hard to do. And we just talked about the split in the format, but 67 points in the quarterfinals is really, really impressive, and that just shows you how explosive this team is.
That's right. We've played under the water tower before,
Yes,
too.
we
Right?
have.
Kentwood Cheyenne Carter is one of the best athletes in the state, and Roos had 7 state titles. Kentwood and Haynesville with 13 state titles and a Golden Tours, number 3 seed. They're going to be tough to beat. They've been to the Dome many times.
Absolutely. That is a great class there, 1A. That is the non-select 3A, 2A, 1A. We're going to be right back after a brief timeout. We're going to have Larry D'Antoni talking about athletic training, talking about sports medicine, talking about preventing what happened at a meet. We'll be back after this timeout. You have found Prep Recruiting Insider, PRI.